Okay, so I've rubbed around the edges and I've made that blend in a little bit better. Now I want to try to adjust the coloring of this image. So if I go to the Image pull-down menu and hit Adjustments, and the first thing I'm going to hit is Brightness Contrast. This gives me a slider to adjust how bright that image is. If I go left, it goes dark on the brightness. If I go right, it goes brighter. So in this case, I want to make that a bit brighter. And I might see if I can make the contrast a little more flat. Alright, so now I've brightened up the image. Alright, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to grab my Navigator and zoom that out a little bit. And I might want to do another free transform on it. So I hit Command T, and now I'm rotating the edge because my cursor has changed to a little turn shape. It's got a curve to it. I can also hold the Shift key down and stretch and pull. So now my face is going a little more Humpty Dumpty and it's fitting in. But if I want it to be a little bit wider, I can go back to that free transform and I can make it a little bit wider so it kind of fits that egg shape a little bit more. Alright, so now my face is starting to fit on that egg a little bit better. The next thing I want to do is maybe adjust the colors. So if I go to my hue saturation slider, I could either black and white this whole image, which doesn't really work here, but I can dim down the saturation here a little bit, and I can play with the colorize slider here and see if I can find myself a more eggy tone to my skin. So I'm just looking at the preview here, and I get a little bit more of a color, of a eggy kind of color in around that kind of ballpark. I could also alternatively hit the colorize button, and it takes all of the coloring and changes it to a tint. So it's kind of like a black and white with a tint to the black and white. So here I could go back and forth and go back to a little bit more of an eggy color here, and I could call it a day, or I could go back and untick that and go back to what I had. So it comes down to personal preference. What do you think works better? I like the colorization version a little bit better, and I'm going to hit OK. There's lots of different ways of modifying the color. That Adjustments pull-down menu has lots of different options. The black and white option here is great, but I think now I've gotten to a point where my image is pretty good, so I might want to do a save. So I'm going to do a File and Save, and I can rename this. I'm going to call this egg.psd. I'm going to override an older one that's on my desktop. I can file that away better. And I'm now writing that as a Photoshop file, so I can go back and it look exactly like this. But if I know that I'm pretty happy with it, now I can go to File and Save As. And then I can change my format here to a JPEG or a lot of your other formats that you might want to use. And I'm going to save that to my desktop. The other option I could do here is I could also export this as a PNG graphic, which would is more of a web-based type thing. Or I could even use the Save for Web Legacy option here, and I could turn this into a GIF. Anyway, there's lots of different file formats that Photoshop can save as. And anyway, that's a bit of a quick grab here as to what Photoshop can do. Thank you for watching. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much.